The Triumph Motor Company made some incredible cars, from the 1931 Triumph Super 9, a four-door tourer, to the incredible TR cars, including the TR6 and TR7. In this video we will explore cars like the TR8, a homologation special with only a handful made, to mimic the monster TR8 driven by Tony Pond. But what if I told you there were some Triumph cars that were forgotten to time? Cars like the TR7 Coupe that could have gone head to head with the Capri, or even a 550 brake horsepower monster that almost shook itself to pieces in front of a live audience. That's right, in this video we're going to explore the world of lost Triumph cars and prototypes. Hello everybody and welcome to this video. This has been incredibly interesting to research and is incredibly interesting to watch, so stay tuned to the end of the video. Make sure to like the video, drop a comment below of your Triumph memories, anything I've missed, anything you'd like to add, or any other car companies or anything you'd like me to cover. Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel because it supports me doing this and you get to see more of it as well. And without further delay and further waffling, let's get into the video. The Triumph Fury. The Triumph Fury is one of the most incredible Triumph cars ever made and has to be one of the most beautiful. This two-seater was apparently built to go head-to-head with the Jaguar E-Type, but ended up sat quite comfortably between the Spitfire and the TR cars of the time. In 1964, a brief was provided to Triumph's freelance designer, Michelotti, to create a two-seater sports car incorporating Triumph's 2-litre straight six of standard Vanguard lineage. But most importantly, the car had to be of monocoque construction instead of a separate chassis and body, to compete with the MGB, which had been introduced 2 years earlier. In early 1965, David Ely of Triumph's engineering team turned the Fury into a running prototype, using as much off-the-shelf components as possible. The Triumph Fury was built in 1965 and was the company's first monocoque construction. As with most prototypes of the time, all of the outer panels are handmade, but there was also some component sharing. The windscreen surround shared with the Triumph Spitfire and TR4, and a lot of 2000 components making up the bulk of the car's mechanics, with a 2-litre straight-six engine getting a few parts from other cars as well, such as the GT6 inlet manifold and Vitesse oil sump. The suspension was also derived from the Triumph 2000. The McPherson front strut suspension was taken directly from it, with the rear suspension being the trailing arms from the TR4. Sadly though, the car was never produced, but extensive testing took place at Triumph. One of the most interesting features of this car is the pop-up headlights, which are operated by a vacuum system, with the upper panel rising and the lower grille section dropping down to conceal the lights, coming a decade before the production TR7's pop-up headlights. The only running prototype Fury was then sold off in 1968 and registered as TVT 990G. The car was then purchased by Jane Weitzman in 2009 from the Patrick Collection based in Birmingham, which had restored it some years earlier, but they retained the original interior in unrestored condition. The car is now part of the JHW Classics collection. Triumph Broadside. The Triumph Broadside was a pair of cars in which Triumph's future hopes and dreams lay. The two cars were designed to recapture the US market, which BL's market share had slipped in years prior, offering a convertible and the Broadside GT 2+2 Coupe. In early 1979 the project commenced to create a new coupe and convertible, with the Broadside initially designed to replace the standard TR7 but also become the platform for the MGB and MG midget replacements. The pair would be based on the Triumph TR7 with a lengthened wheelbase, with an updated interior and new rear end styling using the Rover SD1's rear lights. The styling of the coupe looked awkward and differed quite a lot from Michelotti's initial sketches. The convertible, however, looked amazing, with a rollover hoop added for the US market's regulations on convertibles. The cars would use the 1.7-litre O-Series engine, which was in development at the time, and a larger 2-litre version for the higher-end models. In the early 80s, the use of the 1.7 O-Series was dropped after months of development, with the product plan indicating it would use a turbocharged version of the O-Series 2-litre, as well as a naturally aspirated version. It was then found that the O series would not pass the North American emission specifications and the project was cancelled. Another problem for the Broadside was the interest rates at the time. This made it unprofitable for BL to export cars to the United States. With no engine, the Broadside was doomed, and with the changing fortunes of British Leyland at the time, a series of cancellations were made, including the Princess Estate, Metro Saloon, and of course, the Broadside. There was simply no money or production capacity either, with the Abingdon, Canley and Speke factories closing as well. British Leyland would go bankrupt just a few years later. Both surviving Broadsides, the coupe and the convertible, survive today at the British Motor Museum. The Triumph Lynx 1 and Triumph Bullet. The story of the Lynx 1 and Triumph Bullet is a story of mismanagement and internal politics. Two cars that were in their late design stages cast aside for another team's work. In the late 1960s, Triumph, then part of Leyland Limited, started development on two sports cars. These models accompanying each other would replace the TR6 with the Bullet, and the Lynx would replace the GT6. Development on the Bullet and Lynx commenced in Canley, with Michelotti heavily involved in the styling and prototyping. The proposal was similar to the GT6 and Spitfire platform, a pair of front-engine cars based on saloon running gear. However, the company was then merged into the giant British Leyland Corporation shortly after development commenced, complicating matters with its stablemate, the MG ADO 21 project, competing for the same market. Both cars came under scrutiny by BL's management team, with BL examining the sales in their biggest export market, the USA, and finding that their main clientele were turning to the Porsche 914 and Datsun 240Z. The Bullet would be pitched as a low-cost Porsche 914 competitor, and the Lynx against the 240Z, going head-to-head with their main rivals in the space at the time. They knew they needed to pitch the two cars against these to acquire more customers from the premium end of the segment. In August of 1970, internal discussions within BL's management and board resulted in the Lynx and Bullet's biggest internal competitor being cancelled, the MG ADO 21, meaning the company's full resources could be allocated to Triumph to build the Bullet and Lynx, with a deadline set of 1975 by Donald Stokes, head of British Leyland, for production. Spen King was then placed in charge of development of the cars, with the engine being a newer version of the Slant 4 Dolomite engine with a 4-speed manual gearbox. And at the high end of the new range of cars, these would come equipped with the Rover V8, with no straight-six engine in the range, dropping Triumph's iconic engine. As the styling progressed past its initial stages, Donald Stokes and BL's management were becoming dissatisfied with the style of the car. The design was just considered too conservative for the time. With this being the flagship of the range, there was a lot riding on the team getting this right. In an extraordinary blow to Triumph, Harris Mann's Longbridge team was brought in to restyle the car completely. Triumph tried to regain control of the design by coming up with a sharper version shown here. But thanks to the backing of Stokes, Longbridge's design was here to stay and became the Triumph TR7. Sadly, the Bullet and Lynx are lost to time, with no known cars surviving. The Triumph Bobcat. The Triumph Bobcat is one of the most mysterious Triumph prototypes ever conceived, with not a lot being known about it. The Bobcat was a proposal created by Giovanni Michelotti. This concept was created in the late 1960s to replace the Toledo 1300 and 1500 of the time, as well as to succeed the up-and-coming Dolomite 1850 HL and Sprint. This car was unfortunately another casualty of the merger between Rover and Triumph, with aspects of this prototype being adopted in the SD2 prototype. There are no known surviving prototypes, and there is no information on whether a car was built. The only surviving information we have is this photograph. The Triumph SD2. In late 1969, the next step in the Rover Triumph Specialist Division's plan was kicked off, a logically named little brother to the Rover SD1, the Triumph SD2. The SD2 was a replacement for the Triumph Dolomite 1850 and Sprint, as well as the Toledo and the 1500 TC. All of these cars had technology that dated back to the mid-60s, and in the new world of the 70s, these products, according to the management of BL, were showing their age. The SD2 would be pitched as a premium small car offering as BLMC's premium small saloon, with the concept being approved in May of 1972 as a complement to the SD1. The engine range would include the 1.5 litre overhead valve inline 4 from the 1500 TC to serve as an entry-level model for the fleet market, with the PE166 inline 6 engine from the Rover 2600 and 2300 also being considered for the high end. In 1972 to 1973, the styling of the car was finalised, with Pininfarina also submitting a proposal which was ultimately rejected for the in-house proposal. The in-house design from David Bache's Solihull team won the day, and the styling was approved by BL's management in 1973. By December of that year, the development plan, launch timeline and production plan was also approved, with the following timescales. December of 1974, finish the engineering of the car. October of 1976, start pre-production. June of 1977, start volume production. October 1977, the launch of the 2 litre models. January of 1978, the UK launch of the O Series models. And March of 1978, the European launch of the O Series models. Sadly though, this was all a waste. The SD2 would not reach the road by 1975, it was cancelled. The accountants had struck again, and the BL behemoth missed another opportunity. This car would have moved the Rover Triumph range away from competing directly with some of its sister brands, namely Austin Morris, stopping the cannibalisation BL wanted to avoid in the first place. The last minutes to revive the project failed, with yet another missed opportunity attributed to the corporation's short history. Only one SD2 was made, which survives today, registered as LUL79P. This was fitted with a fuel-injected version of the Sprint's Slant 4 engine, the Triumph TR7 Sprint. One of the rarest Triumph TR7s ever made, with it not even appearing in a model catalogue at the time. A homologation special for the 16-valve version of the TR7, built for the BL Works rally team. The Sprint was an improvement on the TR7, incorporating the Slant 4 16-valve engine from the Dolomite Sprint, improving the speed of the car, with a 0 to 60 time of 8.5 seconds, a 1.1 second improvement over the standard TR7, and a 120 mph estimated top speed, 9 mph faster than the standard TR7's 111 mph. The rally version was even more powerful, with the 4 cars made for the Works team achieving 225 brake horsepower at 8,000 RPM. Sadly, the Sprint was only built until summer of 1977 in limited numbers, when it was cancelled for several reasons. One being BL's decision to focus on the development of the TR8, the other being the major strike at BL's Speak plant, which caused a 17-week stoppage, and following this, the plant was closed in 1978, moving the Triumph TR7's production to Canley. All TR7 Sprints can be identified as genuine Sprints from their chassis numbers that are prefixed with the letters ACH. The British Motor Heritage Trust has a store of documents relating to the Sprint which indicates that only 59 were built. 2 of the ex-Works rally cars have come up for sale in the past few years, as well as several road-going examples of the TR7 Sprint being sold in that time also. The Triumph TR8. The Triumph TR8 is the rarest TR car ever produced, with only 2,750 ever being made. The Harrisman designed sports car was initially planned in 1972, with a prototype being produced housing the Rover V8 engine, but financial issues at the time with BL and well-documented labour problems, with an engine shortage being the result of that, meant the idea was scrapped, as MG and Range Rover had first priority on all newly built Rover V8s. In 1977, the project was given the go-ahead to resume, with Triumph opting for the Rover V8 as initially intended, instead of the Stag V8. By 1978, 145 prototype cars were produced, with these cars having no badging or decals to indicate what they truly were. These cars were evaluated by British Leyland dealers in the US and then sold off to unsuspecting customers. The car's engine bay accommodated the Rover V8 nicely, mating it to a 5-speed manual or 4-speed automatic transmission. The car produced 148 brake horsepower in its fuel-injected form. April 1st of 1978 saw the FIA papers for the Group 4 TR8 homologation being issued and production beginning for the car. The TR8 was intended for the US market and went on sale in mid-1979, with the bulk of TR8s being sent to the US and Canada. This meant only 22 made it to the UK, which were auctioned off. The TR8 saw success in racing, with Bob Tullius dominating the SCCA racing in 1979 in a TR8, and success in rallying as well as many other championships. The story, though, wasn't over for the Triumph TR8. In 1980, the car appeared in racing again, but this time the stakes were even higher. Jan Speed and Ian Harrower created a true monster, the Triumph TR8 Le Mans, a Triumph like no other. The car was constructed to Group 5 rules by ADA Engineering, with a double-skinned steel centre section and glass fibre body panels. The performance of the car was incredible too, with Jan Speed developing a Rover V8 twin-turbo capable of challenging the might of Porsches of the time, developing 550 brake horsepower on boost. British Leyland, though, didn't approve of this venture and dubbed them internally as the British Racing Green Team, pressurising suppliers not to supply parts and consumables in order to sabotage the venture, with a specifically designed 5-speed gearbox being withheld by a supplier due to threats from BL. Therefore, the TR8 had to use a 4-speed gearbox. Sadly though, time, money and support was in short supply for the car. It attempted to qualify in 1980, but the two drivers, John Sheldon and John Brindley, couldn't keep it in a straight line due to the extreme vibrations, nearly shaking the car to pieces. Some work then commenced at their stop in the paddock, with the car going on to hit 201 miles per hour on the Mulsanne Straight, but failing to qualify as the issues meant the car didn't complete enough laps. The car then lay dormant until it's purchased by a Belgian collector of TR7s, where it resides today. Triumph Lynx 2. Project Lynx was a Triumph coupe that never was. In 1972, the second Lynx project was born to extend the Triumph TR7's range with a stylish coupe to go head-to-head with the incredibly popular Ford Capri. From the front to the scuttle line, the car was unmodified, retaining the same styling as the TR7. The back, though, was a different story. The car was entirely new, with a hatchback-style design to increase the practicality of the 2+2 coupe. The platform had its wheelbase extended by 12 inches, with the doors lengthened to remain in proportion. The car would use the LT77 5-speed gearbox from the Rover SD1 and be powered by the O Series engine at the low end and the Rover V8 at the high end to replace the Stag. The front suspension would remain the same, with the rear suspension being shared with the Rover SD1. In 1978, tooling was created and ready to be installed at the Speak factory. The Lynx had been given approval for production, but a seismic event would take place, killing the project. The Speak factory strike had made national news, and with BL in a painful period of financial issues, there was only one option: close the factory, and with the closure of the factory, capacity was in a short supply, meaning the Lynx would never be produced. There is only one Triumph Lynx in existence, which is currently on display at the British Motor Museum. Triumph was an incredible British marque with a history to match. Sadly, through industrial action, sabotage and internal politics, the marque was destined to fail. With the right support and placement within the product line, Triumph cars could have been still rolling off the production line today. The last Triumph car rolled off the production line in 1984, but with a sad irony. It wasn't a Triumph, but a Honda. And that is it for this one, everybody. Thank you for all the support over the past couple of weeks. It has been absolutely incredible. These videos, of course, are doing quite well, and it's spreading the awareness of this incredible brand, an incredible car company, an incredible piece of British motoring history. Now, I haven't included everything in this. Mainly there's some special TR4s, the Triumph Puma, and a few other cars that I didn't include. I'll be including them in the next sort of the next part of this video, because there's just so much to cover. But in the meantime, we will move on to the SD1 next week, where we'll be doing a lot of work on it and finally getting it on the road. So it'll be having its clutch replaced and all of that stuff, so that's going to be brilliant. I'm just fresh off putting all of the door cards back on and redoing some of the sound deadening on those and making sure all of the mechanisms work. That is great. Other than that though, if there's any other cars or anything you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on this. What have I, of course, missed anything? Is there anything that you would like to add? Is there any other mysteries that you'd like us to take a look at? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know your Triumph memories as well, and if you've ever come into contact with some of these mysterious cars. But that, for me, is it, everybody. So thank you for watching. Keep watching and remember to subscribe for more of this, and I'll see you in the next one.